In the construction industry, it's unavoidable, receiving variation. No project in the world, I would say that very simply, no project in the world completed without variation. So in that perspective, one of the questions I received, can contractor object the employer's instruction, tell him, I cannot execute this variation? Yes, if we are going to speak in terms of standard form of contract, especially if you take FIDIC, it's very clearly say that on what are the reason a contractor can object a variation. Especially, let's say that you ask the contractor to execute variation, but unfortunately the contractor cannot identify, let's say, that material or maybe labor immediately to execute the work. And also he thinks that changing this or executing this variation, that's going to be a problem to the execution or health and safety of the project. Or maybe he thinks that the variation that he receives is related to non-nature of the scope of work. For an example, one of the projects which I worked, we signed a contract with a contractor to execute variation, excavation. But the contractor, while he was still excavating the materials and everything, the employer issued a variation, asked him to bring some material from Oman to Saudi Arabia. So he came to us and said that, Asmi, I'm here to do my construction work. I'm not here to work as a logistic contractor, right? So when you receive variation, which is not in your original nature of scope of work, you have a chance to object that one. But to be very frank, go and read your contract. What are the mentioned clause or what are the elements they have mentioned? Especially they will mention that the contractor cannot immediately identify material, labor, or maybe anything from the site, from the circumstance, for that circumstance. Or maybe the contractor thinks that if he is going to execute this variation, that will be very critical and also that will be hazard or problem to health and safety. Or maybe he thinks that this scope of work variation is not in line with his original scope of work. For these kind of fundamental reasons, he can object the employer's instruction or the engineer's instruction, and he can tell them, I will not in a position to execute, and they can reasonably object that. Thank you.